Alien girl thought Netflix and chill was an ancient human ritual. The escape pod shrieked, a dying mechanical banshee, as it plummeted through the ionized atmosphere of Silos, a gas giant's moon. Caleb, strapped into the crumbling seat, could do nothing but brace for impact. The sky reefs of the Escalates, the great floating cities of the Sylvani, glimmered like distant bioluminescent corals far below, untouchable. His scout vessel, the Stardust Drifter, was already a smear of superheated plasma in the upper atmosphere. He'd barely ejected before the system-wide EMP took it out, a rogue solar flare, or something more. He hadn't seen the other ship, but he'd felt the thrum through the hull, a predatory vibration. Now, the ground rushed up, a vast, ochre plain dotted with shimmering, crystalline flora. The pod hit with a sickening crunch, burying itself halfway into the dust, and then everything went dark. He awoke to a soft, persistent buzzing and the scent of ozone and something akin to damp moss. Pain flared in his side, a dull ache that resonated with every beat of his heart. His eyes fluttered open to a blur of shimmering violet and deep teal. Tall forms, impossibly graceful, moved around him. They weren't human, not even close. Their skin seemed to ripple with subtle light, patterns shifting across their limbs like liquid constellations. Their heads were crowned with structures that looked like spun glass, vibrating gently, emitting the soft hum he'd heard. One figure, taller than the rest, knelt beside him. She was an exquisite study in angles and light. Her crystalline hair was a deep indigo, and her eyes, large and multifaceted, were fixed on him with an unnerving intensity. She didn't move. Not a muscle twitched in her luminous face as she observed him, her gaze analytical and utterly devoid of warmth. "He is intact," a voice resonated directly in his mind, smooth as polished stone, yet with an undercurrent of something sharp and unyielding. It wasn't spoken aloud, but a direct neural translation, disorienting and intimate. The pod sustained significant atmospheric burn. "He is a trespasser, but not an aggressor." Yet, Caleb tried to push himself up, a grunt escaping his lips. The sharp pain in his ribs made him gasp. "Easy there, boss. Just trying to get my bearings." He forced a weak smile. "Caleb Vance, Earth Sector. And you are?" The alien woman's luminous eyes narrowed slightly, her head tilted, a delicate, deliberate motion. "I am Kalen, of the Lumina bloodline, commander of the Veil Guard. You are on Xylos, an ancestral ward of the Sylvani Concordance. Your presence here is unprecedented and deeply problematic." Her shifting skin patterns, he realized, were a subtle form of communication, a language of light. Right now, they were a cool, controlled azure, bordering on gray. "Right. Problematic," Caleb repeated, trying to push himself up again, only to be stopped by a gentle, yet firm, hand on his shoulder. Her touch was surprisingly cool and dry, almost like smooth rock. "Look, Commander, my ship took a hit, EMP blast, far as I can tell. Not sure who hit me, but I didn't exactly pick this scenic landing spot for a vacation. Just trying to survive." He caught a glimpse of their city then, hovering far above them. It was truly magnificent. A sprawling network of luminous pathways and crystalline spires held aloft by unseen forces. "So where do we go from here? You got a med bay? Or are we doing the whole tribal council sacrificial lamb thing?" He attempted a laugh, but it dissolved into a cough. Kalen's expression remained unchanged, her luminous gaze fixed on his face, unblinking. He was clearly not making a good impression. "Your humor is noted," Kalen's mental voice resonated, a hint of something unreadable in her tone. "You will be transported to the Veil. Your vessel remains here, undisturbed. Your presence must be assessed by the conclave of resonance. Until then, you are my charge. Do not attempt escape or resistance. It will be unwise." She gestured to two other Sylvani, who moved with a fluid grace that made his human gait feel clumsy and brutish. They produced a shimmering, translucent stretcher. I understand your species has certain social rituals. Perhaps you could explain this Netflix and chill you mentioned in your vessel's data logs. The conclave requires full transparency of Earth's primary social structures. Caleb's mouth dropped open. He'd had old Earth media files on his comms, a relic from his youth. A flicker of deep crimson, barely perceptible, touched Kalen's skin patterns before she turned, a silent command to her guards. The question hung in the ionized air, absurd and utterly serious. He felt a wave of dizzying pain, then once more, oblivion claimed him. When Caleb next woke, he was no longer on the ochre plain. The ceiling above him was a dome of soft, diffused light, pulsing gently in rhythm with a low, resonant hum that filled the space. The air here was cool, clean, and carried the same subtle, mossy scent. He lay on a padded surface that seemed to conform to his body, cushioning his every ache. His ribs were still sore, but the sharp pain was gone. Looking down, he saw his torso was wrapped in a translucent, glowing bandage. It was alien tech, working its quiet magic. He sat up slowly, testing his limbs. No breaks, just bruises. He was lucky. The room was Spartan, but elegant. Walls of smooth, iridescent material, and a single, low table with intricate geometric patterns carved into its surface. A small, delicate, crystalline structure sat upon it, humming softly. Kalen stood by an archway, her back to him, gazing out into what looked like a vast, open space, a chamber beyond his room that seemed to be part of the very structure of the sky reef. Her indigo crystalline hair shimmered with internal light. She turned as he stirred, her multifaceted eyes fixing on him with that familiar, intense scrutiny. Her skin patterns were still a controlled azure. "You are recovered," she stated, her mental voice as precise as ever. "The bioreconstruction module is highly efficient. Your internal structure shows minor degradation from the atmosphere, but no permanent damage." She approached the table, picking up a small shimmering sphere. "You are within the Veil, a high-security complex within the city of Eris. My charge." "Right, your prisoner," Caleb said, stretching his arms above his head. He felt better, but still wary. "So, the conclave. What's that? And what exactly am I being judged for? Existing? Crashing your party?" Kalen placed the sphere back on the table. "The conclave of resonance is the governing body of the Sylvani. They interpret the ancestral chimes, the deep pulse of Xylos, to guide our decisions. Your presence, as an unsanctioned off-worlder, threatens our millennia of isolation and our inherent neutrality." Her patterns flickered, a momentary ripple of violet. "You are not a prisoner, human Caleb. You are a ward, under observation. We seek to understand if you pose a threat to our resonance, or if your species is of a nature that could disrupt our harmony." Caleb chuckled, a dry sound. "Disrupt your harmony, buddy? We invented reality TV. We specialize in disrupting harmony. Look, I'm just a drifter, a survivor. I don't want to cause trouble. Just want to fix my ship, or get a ride out of here. If you could point me to the nearest starport, I'd be eternally grateful." Kalen's head tilted again. "Starport? Your vessel is irretrievable. It disintegrated upon atmospheric entry. We salvaged what little we could from the crash site, mostly data fragments." Her gaze seemed to pierce him, "including your social ritual." Netflix and chill. The phrase sounded utterly alien, mechanical, on her mental tongue. Our analysts spent cycles attempting to decode its significance. It appears to be a multi-sensory experience involving projection of historical narratives, coupled with an intimate physical communion. Caleb felt a blush creep up his neck. Yeah, something like that. It's a date, Kalen. A casual date. You watch a show, maybe. Get to know each other. It's not exactly a sacred rite, Commander." He watched her face, searching for a flicker of understanding, but her expression remained impassive. Her skin patterns, however, subtly shifted, a faint ripple of curious green washing through the azure. "A date," she echoed, the concept clearly alien to her. So the chill refers to the lowering of social barriers and emotional restraint for the purpose of mutual comfort. She was genuinely trying to understand, her analytical mind parsing the data. Our conclave has struggled with this. The term chill has no direct translation into the Silvani pulse tongue in such a context. Does it imply a reduction in body temperature, or perhaps a cooling of aggressive intent? Caleb just stared, then let out a laugh that bordered on hysterical. This was going to be a long stay. Over the next few cycles, Caleb found himself immersed in the strange, shimmering world of the Silvani. He was given relative freedom within the Vale complex, always under Kalen's watchful, observant eye. He learned their customs, their quiet reverence for the deep hum of silos, their reliance on resonance, a form of collective empathy and understanding that seemed to guide every aspect of their lives. He observed their communal meals, their silent, focused work, their intricate, light-based art. Kalen, for her part, continued her relentless inquiry into human customs, particularly the infamous Netflix and chill. She would present him with translated data logs, fragments of Earth's digital past, and ask for elucidation. Human Caleb, she resonated one standard cycle, holding up a shard of his salvaged data drive, a flickering image of a romantic comedy playing across its surface. This rom-com depicts a male and female of your species engaging in what appears to be a courtship ritual, involving shared laughter and consumption of processed nutrient cubes. Is this part of the Netflix and chill protocol? Caleb suppressed a groan. Commander, it's just popcorn. And yes, laughter is generally good for dates. It means you're having fun, you know, not trying to figure out if you're going to execute each other. He noticed a faint, almost imperceptible shift in her patterns, a ripple of something like annoyance or perhaps mild embarrassment. It's about connection, Kalen. Finding common ground, seeing if your frequencies, indeed, resonate. He tried to use her own terminology. A flicker of violet crossed her azure patterns. Resonance is not found through superficial amusement, human. It is earned through shared purpose, through the echoing of ancestral truths, through the profound unity of pulse. It is not something to be chilled. Her tone was clipped, sharper than usual. The conclave is uneasy. Your species lacks internal resonance. Your thoughts are cacophonous. Your emotions, volatile. They fear your presence disrupts the chimes of Xylos. He saw the fear in her species' eyes, not for him, but what he represented. Look, I get it. I'm an anomaly. But I'm not a threat, just trying to survive. That night, the rhythmic hum of Eris shifted. A low, discordant thrum vibrated through the very structure of the veil. Kalen materialized beside him, her patterns a stark, agitated red-violet. The conclave warns of a disturbance, a disharmonious resonance from the outer rings. What does that mean in English, Kalen? He asked, already feeling a prickle of unease. It means, her mental voice was grim. The Luminez rivals, the Ashva, have initiated a surge. They seek to destabilize the city's equilibrium, to challenge the conclave's authority, using your unsanctioned presence as their catalyst. Just then, a klaxon, a piercing, metallic shriek, rent the air. Lights flickered. The floor beneath them shuddered. Well, that sounds like a good time to chill, Caleb muttered, a sarcastic grin on his face. Kalen ignored him, her full attention on a shimmering projection that appeared in the air before them, depicting parts of the city. He saw figures, smaller, more angular than the Silvani, moving with aggressive speed. They are targeting the primary resonance chambers, Kalen stated, her patterns a focused crimson. If those fall, Eris will lose its coherence. We will plummet. She turned to him, her eyes burning with an unfamiliar urgency. Human Caleb, your presence has already invited this conflict. Are you prepared to face the consequences? Caleb swallowed. I wasn't looking for a fight, Commander. But if it means keeping this city from becoming a very expensive rock, then yeah. What do you need? Kalen studied him for a long moment, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze. Your species is known for its resourcefulness in combat, its brutal efficiency. The Conclave has debated whether your methods would pollute our harmony, or whether they are a necessary anomaly in this moment. She picked up a slender, shimmering staff from a rack on the wall. My duty is to the protection of Eris. And now, my duty compels me to include you. Stay close. Do not wander. She moved with swift, silent grace toward the archway. The Ashva are driven by the belief that purity of bloodline must be maintained at all costs. They will see you as an abomination. As they moved through the shifting corridors, the sounds of conflict grew louder. The sharp crackle of energy weapons, the echoing thrum of disrupted resonance, the distant, panicked cries of Sylvani citizens. Kaelin moved like a phantom, her staff humming, deflecting stray energy bolts with practiced ease. Caleb, unarmed, kept close, his eyes scanning for opportunities, for weaknesses. He knew he was outmatched by her, by the other Sylvani, in terms of sheer raw power and grace. But he had his own kind of strength. They came across a group of Ashva, their forms more angular, their crystalline hair sharper, more jagged. They were attempting to disable a smaller resonance nexus, their hands glowing with disrupting energy. Kaelin surged forward, her staff weaving a defense of shimmering light, deflecting their attacks. She moved with a frightening precision, each movement economical and deadly, but they were numerous, and their disruptive energy was slowly eroding her defenses. They're trying to overload the power conduit, Caleb yelled, recognizing a familiar hum from his own engineering background. If that blows, it'll take out the whole section. Kaelin responded with a short, sharp mental burst of acknowledgement. I cannot maintain the defensive ward and disrupt their access simultaneously. Caleb didn't hesitate. He saw an access panel sparking violently, a network of exposed conduits. He sprinted, sliding under an energy blast, ignoring Kaelin's sharp mental warning. He grabbed a stray piece of metallic debris, jammed it into the sparking panel, creating a short, then ripped a conduit free, severing the connection. The Ashava snarled, turning their attention to him. Kaelin's defense momentarily faltered. Her attention split. She unleashed a burst of energy, knocking several Ashva back, but one of them lunged, a blade of raw resonance energy extending from its arm. It struck Kaelin's side, tearing through her luminous skin. A sharp gasp, an unheard cry in his mind, and her patterns flared, a sudden, blinding white before settling into a deep, painful purple. Caleb roared. He hadn't thought he had it in him, but seeing her hurt, seeing the vulnerability, something primal ignited. He grabbed a heavy crystalline shard from the shattered console and hurled it with all his strength, striking the Ashava attacker in the head. It staggered, its form momentarily destabilized, allowing Kaelin to recover and unleash a focused beam of energy that atomized it. She swayed, leaning heavily against the console he'd just sabotaged, her hand pressed to the wound on her side. Her patterns were a chaotic swirl of pain and confusion. You severed the connection, but you exposed yourself. Yeah, while you were busy getting stabbed, Caleb retorted, rushing to her side. He ripped a strip from his shirt. Let me see that. He carefully pressed the cloth against her wound. Her skin felt cool, almost glass-like, but strangely soft beneath his touch. She hissed. A sound that wasn't a human sound, but a subtle vibration in his mind. Your methods are crude, she resonated, but her gaze was no longer purely analytical. It held a flicker of something new, something akin to surprise, and perhaps gratitude. You are a disruptor, human Caleb, but sometimes disruption is a necessary force. The battle raged on, the Ashvav's assault relentless. Kaelin, despite her wound, moved with renewed purpose, her precision amplified by a desperate energy. Caleb, now armed with a discarded energy pistol he'd scavenged, fought alongside her, his movements clumsy compared to her fluid grace, but effective in their brutality. He covered her flanks, drew fire, and used his knowledge of structural weaknesses to create diversions. They fought their way deeper into the city's heart, the Ashva trying to reach the main conclave chamber, intending to disrupt the very source of Eris's resonance. Kaelin's wound, though slowly healing under her own self-repair capabilities, still sapped her strength. Her beautiful skin patterns were constantly shifting, a maelstrom of pain, focus, and something he couldn't quite decipher. "Why are they doing this?" Caleb asked, ducking behind a shattered spire, firing off a burst that drove back a group of attackers. "Why now?" Kaelin pressed her back to his, her breath a series of shallow, internal vibrations. "The Conclave has been deliberating your fate, human. The ancestral chimes have been unclear. Some elders, influenced by the Ashva, believe you are a corruption, a sign of decline. They demand a ritual of repudiation, to cast you out, or worse, to sacrifice you to cleanse the chimes." Her mental voice was tight with suppressed emotion. "The Ashva have used this instability. They see your presence as an opportunity to seize control, to impose their own rigid purity upon the Sylvani." Caleb gritted his teeth. "So, my presence is the excuse, not the cause. Typical. Always some power-hungry jerks trying to twist things." "Their leader, the elder Ashkar," Kaelin continued, her voice gaining a sharp edge, "demands a resonance reckoning before the Conclave, a public challenge. He proposes to prove your unsuitability by severing your connection to the Conclave's chimes, a painful and often fatal process for an unbonded being. If he succeeds, his bloodline will gain ultimate authority." "And you, Commander?" Caleb asked, turning slightly to meet her gaze. He could see the struggle in her eyes, the cold tactician battling with something deeper, something that resonated with ancient sorrow. "What does this mean for you?" Kaelin's patterns flared to a vivid, almost painful purple, then settled on a steely gray. "I am bound by my oath to the Lumina, to protect Eris. My refusal to condemn you outright has been noted by Ashka. He views it as weakness, a stain on my own lineage." Her gaze drifted to a distant, glowing archway. "The Conclave has summoned us. They require a resolution. The chimes are discordant." They reached the Conclave chamber, a vast, echoing space filled with floating crystalline platforms where Sylvani elders sat, their forms shimmering with various emotional states. At the center, a massive, pulsating crystal, the heart of Eris hummed with a deep, unsettling resonance. Ashkar, a gaunt, severe-looking Sylvani with jagged, dark crystalline hair, stood before the Conclave, his voice resonating with an almost hypnotic authority, condemning Caleb, condemning Kaelin's perceived leniency. "The outsider is a blight, a disruption to our sacred chimes. He must be expunged, Commander Kaelin, or you, by your inaction, prove yourself unworthy of your lineage." Ashkar's patterns glowed with aggressive red. Kaelin stepped forward, her wounds still seeping faint light, her patterns a defiant emerald. "My Lord Ashkar, the outsider has proven his worth in defending Eris. He is not a blight, but a force of preservation, and my lineage is proven in my service, not in my blind adherence to outdated protocols." Ashkar sneered. "Then prove it, Kaelin of Lumina. Undergo the pulse of unification with the human. Let the chimes judge his essence. If he is worthy of the chimes, the bond will sustain him. If not, his essence will be consumed, and you will be purified by his dissipation, your duty fulfilled. If you refuse, I claim the right to enact the judgment." Caleb felt a jolt. "Pulse of unification? What's that?" Kaelin turned to him, her eyes holding a depth of emotion he hadn't seen before. "It is our most ancient ritual, human Caleb. A deep resonance merge, to bond the pulses of two beings, to know each other completely, heart, mind, soul, and to present that unified pulse to the heart of Eris for judgment. If the bond is true, a bond mark forms, signifying the chimes accept the union. If it is false, or if one pulse cannot accept the other, there is dissolution." She didn't need to elaborate. Caleb understood. It was a merging, a complete and utter vulnerability, and the stakes were existential, and Kaelin was being forced to initiate it with him, the stranger, for the survival of her people. It was a gamble, a test, and a potential death sentence. The Conclave watched, their collective resonance a tumultuous mix of curiosity, apprehension, and expectation. Ashkar's challenge hung heavy in the air. Kaelin stood before Caleb, her posture rigid, yet her glowing patterns betrayed an internal turmoil. Human Caleb, she resonated, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. The pulse of unification is not a casual interaction. It is the ultimate communion. There is no pretense, no hiding. Every memory, every truth, every shard of your essence will be laid bare to mine, and mine to yours. Are you willing to undertake this? Caleb looked into her multifaceted eyes, saw the fear, the determination, the profound cultural weight resting on her shoulders. He thought of his own messy life, the things he'd buried, the secrets he'd kept. He thought of the ridiculous Netflix and chill conversation, how alien he must seem to her, and how alien she was to him. Yet, in the heat of battle, something had shifted. A trust had formed, raw and undeniable. If it saves your city, Kaelin, he said, his voice quiet but firm, and if it helps you, I'll do it. Just try not to laugh when you see my childhood memories. They're pretty embarrassing. He tried for a weak joke, a touch of his usual dry humor, hoping to lighten the unbearable tension. A flicker of emerald touched her patterns, a ghost of a smile in her luminous eyes, before she composed herself. Approach the heart of Eris, human Caleb. We will perform the bond. They stood before the colossal throbbing crystal. Its light pulsed, washing over them in waves of shimmering energy. Kaelin extended a hand, her palm open. Caleb hesitated for only a fraction of a second before placing his own hand in hers. Her touch was warm this time, and a faint tingle, like static electricity, ran up his arm. This is not a casual date, human Caleb, Kaelin resonated, her voice trembling slightly. This is everything. A low hum filled the chamber, growing in intensity. Kaelin's crystalline hair began to vibrate, emitting a soft, melodic chime. Her skin patterns flowed, not just with her own emotions, but mirroring the resonance of the heart of Eris. Breathe with me, she instructed, her voice a deep thrum in his mind. Allow your pulse to align with mine. Release your conscious control. Seek the truth within. As he focused, following her lead, he felt a strange pressure in his chest, then a swirling sensation in his mind. He saw flashes of light, colors he didn't have names for, heard echoes of ancient songs, tasted the scent of ionized air and alien flora. And then, without warning, the connection surged. His mind was no longer his own. He was Kaelin. He saw her earliest memories, the structured halls of the Lumina, the rigorous training, the quiet expectation of her lineage. He felt her grief, a deep, pervasive sorrow from a forgotten battle, a loss that had carved a hollow in her core and forged her into the cold tactician she was. He felt her profound loyalty to Eris, to the ancestral chimes, a duty that was her very identity, and then he felt her curiosity about him, the peculiar human, the strange humor, the unexpected tenderness. Her thoughts were a torrent of light and resonant patterns, overwhelming but beautiful. And she was him. He felt her recoil slightly as his own cacophonous memories flooded her senses, the chaos of Earth's cities, the strange warmth of human touch, the sharp sting of loneliness, the bitter taste of fear he'd experienced after his ship was crippled. She saw his desire to survive, but also his inherent empathy, his hidden kindness. She saw the Netflix and chill data, but this time, not as a ritual, but as a longing for simple connection, for a shared moment of vulnerability without the weight of a dying starship or a collapsing city. A flicker of deep understanding, of something akin to wonder, resonated within her. The heart of Eris pulsed faster, its light intensifying. The conclave elders watched, their own patterns shifting with awe and trepidation. Ashka's face was contorted in disbelief. The pulse of unification was meant to expose weakness, to dissolve discord. Instead, it was forging something new, something powerful. Suddenly, a searing pain lanced through Caleb's arm, directly above where his hand met Kaelin's. A burning sensation. Deep within his bones, he gasped, but couldn't pull away. Kaelin's own pattern flared a brilliant gold, then settled, shimmering, into a complex, intricate mark on her own forearm, mirroring his own. It was a bioluminescent pattern, a knot of light and darkness, twining, eternally connected, a bond mark. The resonance in the chamber peaked, then slowly subsided, leaving an almost reverent silence. Caleb was disoriented, his mind reeling from the intimacy of the merge. He felt Kaylin's presence within him, a quiet echo of her thoughts and feelings, and he knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that his own essence was now irrevocably intertwined with hers. Callan slowly pulled her hand away, her patterns now a gentle shimmering gold, her eyes, still wide and luminous from the merge, fixed on Caleb's face. "The chimes, they accept," she resonated, her voice thick with wonder and confusion. "The bond mark. It is true." Hoskar stared, his dark crystalline hair bristling with rage. "Impossible. The human's essence should have been consumed. His dissonance should have shattered your pulse, Commander Kalen." Kalen turned, her posture regal despite the lingering pain of her wound and the shock of the bond. "The chimes do not lie, Ashkar. Human Caleb is not a blight. He is a resonant frequency, different but aligned. His essence has strengthened mine, and mine his. We are bonded." Her patterns glowed with undeniable conviction. "The pulse of unification is complete. Eris has judged. The conclave must abide." The elders, their own patterns a mix of wonder and relief, began to hum, a deep, collective sound of acceptance. Ashkar, defeated, his face a mask of fury, turned and stalked away, his challenge broken. The aftermath of the pulse of unification was complicated. Caleb felt raw, exposed. The lingering echo of Kalen's emotions and memories was a constant hum in his mind, a beautiful, overwhelming cacophony, and he knew she felt his too. There was no hiding now, no pretense. Kalen, for her part, seemed equally disoriented. Her usual stoicism was fractured. Her skin patterns, once so controlled, now shifted with subtle grace, reflecting her internal state with a newfound transparency. She would find herself gazing at him, her multifaceted eyes wide, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths, curiosity, vulnerability, and a profound, nascent connection. "Your emotions are very loud, human Caleb," she resonated one cycle, as they walked through the quiet corridors of the Vale, the new bond mark on both their forearms glowing faintly. "Even when you strive for silence, this embarrassment you experienced as a juvenile, it resonates with a peculiar heat," Caleb chuckled, a little self-consciously. "Yeah, well, we humans, we wear our hearts on our sleeves sometimes. And my heart's a pretty noisy place, I guess." He paused, then looked at her. "How are you handling all of me?" "That merge, it was a lot." Kalen stopped, turning to face him fully. Her patterns flowed through shades of deep violet and emerald. It was disorienting to feel such chaos, such profound sadness in your past alongside such an insistent optimism and that peculiar human humor. "It is like a strange melody in the deep chimes." She paused, her gaze dropping to their bond marks. "My own grief, the one you perceived, it is clearer now. The echoes of the lost battle, the weight of a lineage that I felt I bore alone. Your presence, within my essence, has somehow dispersed it. Not removed, but made it lighter." A silence settled between them, heavy with unspoken things. Caleb reached out, gently tracing the glowing bond mark on her arm. Her skin shimmered under his touch. "Kalen," he began, his voice low, "what does this bond mark truly mean? For us? For your people?" Her patterns shifted, a flush of rose across her skin. "It means we are bonded. Our pulses are aligned. For the Sylvani, a bond mark is given once. It signifies a profound, often lifelong connection. It is not necessarily for what you call romance. It is for unity of purpose, for shared resonance, for the strengthening of a bloodline or a collective." Her eyes met his, and for the first time he saw a hint of something shy, something vulnerable. But the chimes, they chose you. My species has no concept of a date, human Caleb. But I believe the pulse of unification was our version of a Netflix and chill, was it not? A profound shared intimacy for deeper understanding. Caleb's dry humor resurfaced, a shield for his own burgeoning emotions. Yeah, Kalen, except usually, there's less ritual sacrifice and ancient prophecy involved, and definitely less risk of spontaneous combustion. He squeezed her arm gently. So, are you chillin'? A genuine ripple of deep, shimmering gold spread across her patterns, a visible manifestation of amusement. I am chilling, human Caleb. For the first time in many cycles I find myself profoundly chilled. The lightness in her mental voice was new, intoxicating. In the cycles that followed, the defeat of Asher's aggressive bloodline brought a fragile peace to Eris. The conclave, swayed by the undeniable power of the bond mark, acknowledged Caleb's presence, not as a threat, but as an unexpected catalyst for renewal. He became something akin to a cultural ambassador, a strange bridge between two worlds, his blunt earth idioms and Kalen's formal resonance finding a unique harmony. Kalen, now stripped of some of her tactical rigidity, began to explore the complexities of her bond with Caleb. Their connection, deepened by the shared experience of the pulse, was a constant, subtle conversation in their minds. He learned of the intricate beauty of the Silvani soul, the profound depth of their ancestral memory. She, in turn, discovered the raw, sometimes messy but always vibrant truth of human emotion. They found themselves often in the quiet, reflective spaces of Eris, gazing out at the vast, shimmering expanses of Xylos below. One cycle, as the twin suns of the system cast long purple shadows across the sky reefs, Kalen turned to him, her patterns a soft, contented silver. Human Caleb, she resonated, her voice gentle. You spoke of Netflix and chill as a means of seeking connection. I understand now that the chimes sought more than mere unity of pulse. They sought intimacy, a deeper bond beyond the mere necessity of survival. Caleb reached for her hand, the bond mark on their forearms pulsing in synchronicity. Yeah, Kalen, that's what it means. It's about being truly seen, truly known, and not being afraid of it. Her translucent skin shimmered, a deep emerald glow reflecting in his eyes. I was afraid of the vulnerability, of the chaos I perceived within your essence. But in the pulse, I found not chaos, but a different kind of order, a vibrant, unpredictable order that resonated with my own deepest longing for something beyond duty. She moved closer, her delicate crystalline hair brushing his shoulder. My people have honored their ancestors for millennia. They have survived through strict adherence to resonance, but perhaps true survival requires not only purity of pulse, but the courage to embrace the unexpected, to allow new frequencies to harmonize. He leaned his head against hers, feeling the subtle vibration of her crystalline hair, the warmth of her skin. Maybe you're right, Commander. Maybe we all need a little more unexpected in our lives. He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. I don't know what the future holds, Kalen. For me, for you, for Eris, but I'm glad I crashed here. Glad I met you. Her patterns pulsed, a kaleidoscope of serene blues and verdant greens. And I, human Caleb, am grateful for your accidental trespass. My pulse is at peace. Alongside yours, the chimes sing a new song for Eris, a song of chilling. With you, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth spread through his chest, a deep, resonant hum that mirrored the contented beat of his own heart. The future was uncertain, as always, but for the first time in a long time, Caleb Vance felt like he had found a home, suspended in the sky, with an alien woman who finally understood the true meaning of Netflix and chill.